Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be talking about Chapter 1, Cell Structure and Organization. This chapter is needed by students taking biology and science biology. This chapter is split into 4 parts. In this video, I will only be talking about part 1, which is referring to the parts of a cell. For this part, there are 2 objectives in the syllabus that you need to know. The first one is to learn how to identify and state the function of the cell wall, cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, vacuole, and chloroplast. These 6 structures, can be seen with a light microscope. There are 4 other structures that can be seen with a stronger microscope known as an electron microscope. Okay, these 4 structures are known as the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, mitochondria, and ribosome. For students taking G2, G3 science biology, there is no need for you to learn this too. Okay, as you can see that I have put an asterisk to it. And so, they are not in the syllabus for science biology. Before we move on, I think it is good to know the difference between a light microscope and an electron microscope. In general, electron microscopes are stronger. They are able to magnify objects of a higher degree. Okay, you can see over here it is 50 million times depending on the type. So let's begin with part 1, okay, parts of a cell. Before we move on, I think it is good to know the general definition of a cell. Okay, a cell, is considered a basic unit of life. Inside the cell, there are many structures, and collectively, all these structures are known as protoplasm. Okay, so let's begin. Cell membrane. Cell membrane can be seen with a light microscope. A cell membrane, surrounds the cytoplasm of the cell and it encloses the living matter within the cell. Okay, this is more important. Let me highlight this. A cell membrane, is made up of fats and proteins. Okay, if you see the word lipids, it is also known as fats. A cell membrane, is also partially permeable. Okay, partially permeable refers to membranes that allow small molecules to pass through, but larger molecules are unable to pass through. Okay, so they are able to restrict the size of molecules passing through. The function of a cell membrane, is to control. All right, please take note of this verb, control the movement of substances inside and outside of the cell. So they are like the barrier and they actually controls what goes in and what comes out of a cell. Cytoplasm can also be seen with a light microscope. Generally, cytoplasm is described as a jelly-like substance that fills up the inside of a cell. Most chemical reactions will occur in the cytoplasm, and the structures that the cytoplasm contains, are called organelles. Okay, organelles is important for you to take note because you will keep seeing them appearing. The nucleus is the third structure that you need to know. This is the nucleus in the diagram. The nucleus is surrounded by its own membrane. We call this the nuclear membrane. The nucleus is important because it contains genetic information. Okay, you are familiar with the word DNA, and DNA are actually genetic information that is found in the nucleus, or they can be in the form of chromatin or chromosome. You will learn more of them in the chapter on molecular genetics. The nucleus, is important because it allows the cell to divide. Without the nucleus, the cell cannot divide. So the nucleus, is essential for cell division. The function of a nucleus is to control whatever that the cell is doing. Okay, if a cell is growing, if a cell is dividing, if a cell is undergoing repair, the nucleus is the one that can control all this. So without the nucleus, the cell will not divide, the cell will not grow, and the cell will slowly die. The cell wall can be seen with a light microscope. In this diagram, this is the cell wall over here. Okay. Cell walls, are generally found in plant cells. Bacterial cells also contain cell wall, but the substance that makes up the cell wall is different. Okay. In this video, I will be focusing more on plant cells. For plant cells, right, the substance that makes up the cell wall is known as cellulose. Cellulose is a type of carbohydrate which you will come across later in chapter 3. The cell wall is described as fully permeable. So it is not the cell membrane. It actually allows all substances to pass through without restriction. Okay, so we generally describe the cell wall as fully permeable. Do not confuse cell wall and cell membrane. Okay, they are not the same. The function of the cell wall is to protect the cell. The cell wall is, how do I describe? Have a general level of rigidity. Okay, so it can protect the cell from physical damage and it gives the cell a fixed shape. In the next chapter, right, you will learn the word turgor pressure, okay, which is caused by water. The cell wall, right, is able to keep the water in the cell, and so the water in the cell, right, will exert a pressure against the cell wall of a plant cell, and this is known as turgor pressure. Okay, so for cell wall, they have two functions. The vacuole is found inside a plant cell. Animal cells also have, but what you're looking at is the vacuole of a plant cell right here. Okay, the vacuole contains a fluid. The vacuole is also enclosed by a membrane. The function of the vacuole is to store substances. Okay, however, in animal cells, they are small and temporary, and they store water and general food. For plant cells, right, they are what we describe as large and centrally located. So we use the word large central vacuole for plant cells. Please do not anyhow use. Okay, and they contains this substance known as cell sap. What cell sap contains, right, is generally sugars, amino acids, mineral salts, and waste substances. Chloroplast is another structure that is found in plant cells. Okay. However, please note that they are not found in all plant cells. Okay. Some plant cells do not have chloroplast. Before we move on, let me bring you to this diagram. This is an electron micrograph of a chloroplast. Okay. So please take note of how it looks like, because later on when I show you the mitochondria, it's slightly different. Okay. And you must learn how to differentiate them. The chloroplast is also membrane bound. Okay, it is surrounded by a membrane. And of course, the chloroplast will contain this green pigment known as chlorophyll, which I believe you are familiar with it. Okay, chlorophyll is the pigment that gives plants the green color. It is a pigment. And what chlorophyll do in chloroplast, right, is that they absorb light energy and they convert this light energy into chemical potential energy. Okay, and in the process, right, glucose is produced. So you all learn that plants make food, right? The food is actually glucose. Okay, and this process is also known as photosynthesis, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. So let's move on to the mitochondria now. Now the mitochondria is shown in this diagram. You can see that it looks somewhat alike to the chloroplast, but it is not a chloroplast. Okay, please learn how to differentiate them. A mitochondria is membrane bound. Okay, its function, right, is to perform aerobic respiration. Now this is a process, right, that is able to break down glucose in a cell in the presence of oxygen. You need oxygen to be available to do that, and in this process, right, energy is released. This energy is used for the cell to work. Depends on the cell. Okay, different cells have different functions, but they all need energy, and therefore the mitochondria is important for a cell, because without the mitochondria, the cell will not be able to function. The next structure to learn is ribosomes. Okay, ribosomes are either attached to the endoplasmic reticulum or they are lying freely in the cytoplasm. So they are either attached or they are found in the cytoplasm floating around. Please take note that endoplasmic reticulum is not in syllabus for science biology, but you still need to learn ribosomes. Okay, you need to know the function, and the function of the ribosome is to synthesize proteins. Very easy. They make proteins. From here onwards, students taking science biology is not no longer needed. You do not have to learn them because it is not in syllabus. So for endoplasmic reticulum, right, it is a network of a network of spaces enclosed by membranes. Okay, there are two types, rough and smooth. Okay, let me move on to the rough one first. The rough endoplasmic reticulum, right, transports proteins made by attached ribosomes. Okay, so the ribosomes are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, and this gives it a rough appearance. And these proteins that is made by the attached ribosomes, right, they will send the proteins to the Golgi body for secretion out of the cell. Okay, the function of the Golgi body will be highlighted later. Now in this diagram, you can see the rough endoplasmic reticulum. You can see the ribosomes that is being attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. Hence, they give the endoplasmic reticulum a rough appearance. For smooth endoplasmic reticulum, okay, they are connected to the rough, but they are more tubular. Okay, the rough endoplasmic reticulum is less tubular. And the reason why the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is known as the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is because they do not have any ribosomes attached to it. There are two functions. The first one is to synthesize fats and steroids. And the second one, right, is to conduct or to process this process known as detoxification, which is to break down harmful substance into harmless ones. Okay, so the smooth endoplasmic reticulum has two functions. This is a diagram that shows you the rough endoplasmic reticulum. You can see the rough surfaces, and this is the smooth. You can see that there is no ribosomes attached. Okay. The last one is known as the Golgi body. The Golgi body is also known as the Golgi apparatus, but Golgi body is easier to describe. So the Golgi body, right, is basically made out of stacks of flattened spaces enclosed by membranes with vesicles constantly fusing and pinching. Okay, I will try to explain this in the next slide, but right now this is how we describe Golgi body. The function of the Golgi body is more important to know. It chemically modifies and it packages substances made by the endoplasmic reticulum for secretion out of the cell. Okay, so please remember this function. Now this is how the Golgi body works. So you will see, right, this term known as pinching and fusing. You can slowly read. Okay, so I'll try to describe this. So when the rough endoplasmic reticulum or the endoplasmic reticulum, right, will make the substance, the vesicles will be pinched off from the endoplasmic reticulum and they will move to the Golgi body. When they move to the Golgi body, right, they will fuse with the Golgi body and they will undergo a chemical process. And what is resulting from this, right, is the finished product. And this finished vesicle, right, will move on to the cell membrane so that they can be secreted out of the cell. Okay, so we call this process pinching and fusing. It is not very important to know. I don't think it's any questions will come out, but I think it is very important to know how a cell works. And we generally use the word pinching and fusing to describe how substances move within the cell. Okay? Yeah, so this is generally what pinching and fusing means. So that's it. Okay, so this is the end of part 1. I have introduced to you the 10 parts of a cell which you have to learn. And if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up and I will try to answer them as much as possible. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.